Frag Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Frag Tag Radio. And here with you today is your boy Pradius, and about to do our Gears of War 4 review. But first, got to get those plugs out there. First of all, Appy Gamer. Appy makes you happy. You can catch it on Android, iOS, I believe Windows as well. Free app. Get all your news, game and news sources in one spot, including Frag Tag Radio, and of course, game and news and reviews from News Fusion. You can catch that on Android and iOS as well. Great news apps. And then can't continue on without Game On. Shouts to Troy, who Game On is on iOS and Windows Phone, so definitely want to check that out as well. Great game and news apps. And on top of that, you can catch us at fragtagradio.com, Twitch, Twitter, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn, iTunes, everywhere. And with that, let's get into the review. So, Gears of War 4, I got it a week ago and been playing. First thing I did was dive into the campaign, and wow, absolutely loved the campaign. So you're playing as James, who is Marcus Phoenix's son, along with your buddy Dell, who the two of you used to be in the COG together, but evidently the two of you kind of went AWOL and left for reasons unknown and joined up with this girl named Kate, who's an outsider. Now, in the future, 25 years in the future, after the death of the Locusts on Sarah, the COG have walled up humanity into these compounds around the world, and a lot of people don't want to live under military rule, so they've chosen to be outsiders and made their own little villages, out in the wilderness, shit like that. So the game starts off, you're going to raid a COG compound because there are these things called fabricators, which you actually use in Horde mode as well, and we'll get to, which is pretty much like, people have been calling it like a 3D printer. I think of it more as like a replicator from Star Trek, where you pretty much can just replicate anything you want, like an industrial replicator for producing massively large things or weapons or anything you want, pretty much. So you go break into the compound to try and steal this fabricator, aka the replicator, and of course things don't go as planned. Crazy things start happening. You fight a bunch of robots, which all the robots, they're called DBs, and those are actually controlled by the COG. And you realize that this lady named First Minister Jin, who is now like the leader of humanity, or leader of the COG anyway, is after you, JD, and your buddy Dell, and is trying to bring you all down, and you got all these robots going after you. You get the fabricator, you go back to Kate's village, of course. They're still in hot pursuit, so you have to try and defend the village, which turns into like a mini Horde mode, where you put down the fabricator, you set up defenses, turrets, and then there's 3 separate waves. And there's actually a few sections like that throughout the campaign to kind of break up the action a little bit and make it more like a tower defense type missions in the campaign. So and then, of course, after you do that, you beat back the robots for the 3 waves, finish that off. Nighttime comes, and then the Swarm, which is the new Locust-type enemies in Gears of War 4, come to the village. You and JD and Kate are actually locked inside of this place. Kate's mom locks you in there. The Swarm comes, they take Kate's mom and pretty much everybody else in the village, except for y'all who were locked inside this one little area. And then, so the rest of the game is about going and trying to find and rescue Kate's mom. And as you probably know from the previews, you meet up with Marcus Phoenix along the way. Other crazy stuff happens, and things just unravel from there all the way down to the grand finale, which does have a decent little cliffhanger that leaves it open for the next Gears of War, of course. But I mean, it's just crazy, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, so you have to play it yourself. Other parts of the campaign that break up the action. There's one part where you're actually driving a motorcycle, like in a high-speed chase, after an airplane, like an aircraft carrier, and you have to blow it out of the sky while driving and dodging objects. That was pretty freaking cool. There's another one where you're riding these cables up a mine shaft, and you have to blow obstacles out of your way and swing past different things as you're making your way up back to mineshaft. That was pretty cool. And then there's one where you get in and control these giant mech robots, and you're probably thinking about the Mantis from Gears of War 3, but those things are ants compared to these. These are building Godzilla size robots that you are inside of. It's absolutely insane. Like, and they move like a normal person in Gears. Like, you can actually take cover in these giant robots, and you don't take cover against a small piece of cover on the ground. You use entire buildings as cover. So that was pretty insane. And then you can call in airstrikes while you're in your mech and blow enemies out with a hand weapon, which is like a giant saw blade shooting thing, which is similar to the Buzzkill, which is another of the new weapons in Gears. So a couple of the new weapons. The Buzzkill is a heavy weapon, two-handed. You pick it up, you move really slow with it, and it shoots out saw blades really fast and just slices enemies directly in half. And if you miss an enemy and it hits a wall, it ricochets around and still has a chance to hit enemies. Really cool weapon. There is another one, the Drop Shot, which if you played the beta, you're probably familiar with that, which is supposed to be like a digging tool for the miners, and a lot of this Gears of War revolves around mines and mining because you actually have to go down into one. But so the drop shot, you hold down the right trigger and it sends it out, and when you're ready for the thing to dive down, you let go of the trigger and it dives straight down to wherever it's at. And there's actually a blue line coming down from it, so you know exactly where it's going to fall at. Much easier to use now than it was in the beta. In the beta, it was so confusing trying to figure out how to use that weapon for real. Other new weapons are the robot weapons, the DBs. They have their own weapons. One is the Enforcer, which is like a SMG that fires like electrified shots. They also have their own shotgun, which I believe is called the Overkill, which you pull the trigger once and it lets out 2 massive shots, and is very, very powerful shotgun. There's something similar to the Mulcher, which the Mulcher is still in there, but there's this thing called the Tri-Shot, which is similar to the Mulcher, but it only has 3 barrels, and it's much more precise than the Mulcher is, so that's a pretty cool weapon. And then there's a salvo weapon where it has like 4 missiles in it, and then you can shoot the missiles out of it, and they're actually kind of semi-heat seeking. They're not exactly guided, but they're kind of heat seeking, so like if you shoot right next to an opponent, like it'll still come in, curve in, and hit them. So really cool, powerful power weapons. Of course, all the fan favorite weapons, the Lancer, the Hammer Burst, the Retro Lancer, the Gnasher, Torque Bow, the Long Shot, all those guns are back. The sawed-off shotgun from Gears of War 3 is not in Gears of War 4, and I think some people are either going to hate that decision or absolutely love that decision. I was never a fan of the sawed-off shotgun, so I'm absolutely fine with the fact that it's not in Gears of War 4. However, the sawed-off shotgun did have its defenders, and they were adamant about it in Gears of War 3, so I imagine those people might be let down slightly, but if that was your thing, I would say check out the new robot shotgun, the Overkill. That might be your new go-to, although I don't think you can use that as a loadout weapon. So graphically, I mean, it definitely pushes the boundaries of the graphics we've seen so far this generation. It's up there with Forza Horizon 3, which I just reviewed recently. Amazing looking game. Rise Son of Rome, a launch game that still looks amazing to this day. And any other game you could think of that looks absolutely amazing on this generation of consoles. Gears of War is right up there with it, if not one of the best looking on Xbox One. So the new characters are great. I was kind of worried about it because being a longtime Gears fan, I kind of grown attached to Marcus and Baird and Cole, and of course, you know, Dom's fate in Gears 3. There was no way he could have been in this one, but and he actually kind of is in spirit a little bit, but yeah. So and then the new characters being really great. And JD is actually voiced by Liam, the dude who played Spartacus in the last 2 or 3 seasons of Spartacus. After Andy Whitfield passed away, he took over as Spartacus. So if you're familiar with that guy, that's the guy who's voicing JD. just really, 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 really cool characters, and I grew to really like them over the course of the game, and by the end, I mean, I'm like, I wish I could play the Gear 6 campaign right now to figure out what happens next. Um, and then, of course, the fact that Phoenix tags along, Daddy Phoenix tags along for a lot of the campaign, really helped kind of transition over to these new characters. I thought that was really cool. And then you run into other characters along the way. Coltrane, who you probably saw from the trailer. I believe Baird, Admiral Hoffman, Sam Byrne. A lot of the old characters you run into at least briefly, if not for a mission or two. So that was really cool seeing the old characters come get back together. Um, Even though they're not playable, they're there with you, which kind of just helps with the transition. So then yesterday I played Horde mode, guided multiplayer session with one of the coalition guys, a couple other journalists. That was really, really great. So Horde 3.0 is now like a class-based system. You can choose either the soldier, the scout, the heavy, the engineer, or the sniper. And based on which one you pick will depend on what you do. So the engineer is all about building and repairing the fortifications and turrets that you set up in Horde to keep the enemies, the swarm and the DBs at bay. The soldier is all about dealing damage, and it's kind of like a jack of all trades. He can do other stuff as well. And then the heavy is the real guy about dealing damage. He actually starts with a boom shot and I believe a retro lancer. And yeah, he's all about dealing the damage, the most damage anyway. And then of course the scout moves a lot faster than the other classes, and they go around the map and are in charge of collecting up the power that drops from the enemies that get killed. And if anybody can pick up power that drops, but if the scout picks it up, you get double the power, and you're going to want all the power you can get for the fabricator, which is what you're going to be using to build your defenses, your traps, your decoys, your turrets. So definitely want the scout to run around, pick up all that power. And then your sniper, of course, is all about sniping, taking the enemies out from a distance, and they get perks that are, help them out with that. So, I guess the ideal team, because you can have five at the team of five, so the ideal would be to have one person of each class. Or at least that's the way they're kind of billing it. Although I'm sure fans, once they really get their hands on it, they'll probably figure out a better combination, like 2 scouts, 2 engineers, and a soldier, or 2 scouts, 2 engineers, and a heavy, or an engineer, a scout, 3 heavies. Once people really get in and start playing around with it, I'm sure that better combinations are going to come out, and then you'll see one become favored over the rest. All the weapons from campaign are available in Horde, so there's that. Just like in previous Hordes, every 10 waves is a boss wave, and then you finish the boss wave, then you do the next 10 waves, and for the next 10 waves, the enemies get like double health, and then for the next 10 waves after that, they get double accuracy, and so forth with modifiers until you finish wave 50. You can set bounties now, which you get by opening these card packs. You earn credits by playing both Horde and multiplayer. You then use those credits to buy the packs. You can buy Horde-based packs, PvP, competitive multiplayer-based packs, or operations packs, which has a little bit of everything, or these elite packs, which are pretty much like cosmetic packs, which just have like skins for your shotguns, new characters, stuff like that. That's the most expensive one, which I believe is like 4,000 credits, insane price. Anyways, the bounties you get from packs, you can equip those, whether you're playing Horde or the PvP multiplayer. And if you complete them while playing your Horde match or your multiplayer match, then you'll get extra XP or extra credits, extra XP to level yourself up, or extra credits that you can spend on new packs cards. Cards come in, different forms of rarity, from common to rare to epic to legendary. So legendary ones are obviously a lot smaller chance of getting out of the packs and so forth on down the line. But so lots of cool different characters and weapon skins that players will definitely want to collect while they're playing. For the PvP side of things, Guardian is back. Oh my god, I am such a huge fan. Guardian has been my favorite Gears of War mode since Gears 2. So definitely super glad to see Guardian make a comeback for Gears of War 4, which is where both teams have a leader, and as long as your leader is alive, you can keep respawning. If your leader dies, respawns are gone. And if the enemy still has their leader alive, then it's bad news for you. Then, of course, the classics Warzone and Execution, which are pretty much the same thing, except in Warzone, you can kill your enemies from a distance. Execution, you actually have to get up close and execute them. Team Deathmatch, which is like Warzone with respawns. King of the Hill, which you will know from previous Gears, sort of like Annex. And then Escalation, which is a new mode, which is a lot more like Annex. And then Arms Race, which reminds me of that Call of Duty game where you get a kill with the gun and then it changes to a new gun, and then you got to get a kill with that gun and then it changes to a new gun. So that's pretty much the deal with Arms Race, except for the gun is for the whole team, and after your team gets 3 kills with whatever the current gun is, then it switches the whole team to a new gun. Then after your team gets 3 kills with that gun, switch to the next one, and so forth until, you know, the team with the most points wins. So there's that. Like I said, wow, Gears of War 4, just an amazing game. Probably going to end up being my game of the year. Forza is definitely my racing game of the year, but Gears of War 4, I'm more of a Gears guy than I am a racing fan, so I see myself spending more time with Gears of War 4 in the coming months and the whole next year, and maybe even beyond until the next Gears comes out. I mean, I'm going to be playing a lot of Gears, and I'm still a lot of Warframe too. Warframe is still Warframe and Gears are my 2 most favorite games right now. So I will be bouncing back and forth between those, playing those until my next review, which I believe will probably be Dead Rising 4. So you can look forward to that. And we'll have another episode coming in a week or 2 with some Warframe stuff. And then hopefully shortly thereafter, my Dead Rising 4 review. So if you want some more in-depth coverage on Gears of War 4, I wrote a really awesome, really long review, which you can catch on fragtagradio.com. I'll try to remember to drop the link in the description. But if not, just go to fragtagradio.com. Check out my written review there. Or if you have one of those apps, Appy Gamer, Gaming News and Reviews, you can check it out on there. And yeah, so Gears of War 4, absolutely amazing game. If you absolutely were not a Gears fan in the past, I doubt Gears 4 is going to do anything to change your mind. But if you're a Gears fan, gotta pick up Gears of War 4, no question in my mind, no doubt, gotta get it. If you never played Gears of War 4, same thing, no doubt in my mind, gotta pick it out, try it out for the first time, since we're pretty much essentially starting over, you know, and the prologue mission kind of lets you know what's already happened. So it's a great entry point for new Gears of War fans who are just coming into the fray to check out Gears and really get into it. I believe they made it a little more accessible than previous Gears. Some hardcore fans might have an issue with that, but I didn't. I think it's just as much Gears as it ever has been, with some cool new stuff. Of course, the yank and shank, where you can pull enemies over cover and then stab them in the face, or, you know, things like that. And then the class-based stuff with Horde mode. So a lot of smart additions to the game, not stupid changing up of the controls like they did with Judgment, or changing the way the maps are designed. God, Judgment did so many things wrong with Gears, and Gears of War 4 does none of that. All that crap that they did wrong with Judgment is gone, thankfully. So Gears of War 4 is Gears at its best, with some smart new additions and a great campaign, great Horde, great multiplayer, great graphics, awesome soundtrack. Matter of fact, I believe the guy who scores Game of Thrones is actually the same guy who scored Gears 4, if I remember reading that correctly. So yeah, check it out. It has been a great episode. I'm about to get back on Gears and play some more, because that's all I can think about right now. I actually had to pull myself away to get this video done, to write the review, because I really just wanted to keep on playing. And I can't wait for the rest of you guys to get down, check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments, if you liked Gears of War 4 or not. And I will see y'all on the next episode.
Frag Radio.